Hello, welcome back to Learn Economy. Here we are continuing with the Hicks Hansen Samuelson ISLM transformation. We have given an intro regarding this in the previous video. I'll be providing the link of the same in the description box so that you can go through that video first and then come back to this video. So, we have stopped that video by telling about the Keynesian cross. In the diagram, you can see the same. It is here in this diagram. You can see that expenditure is plotted against the output, and because of the consumption relationship, the aggregate demand function YD, it depends upon income. That is why. Here, the 45-degree line simply bounds as the level of income. If income is Y1, what happens is that the aggregate demand generated exceed the output, which is which actually generated it. We can see that YD here is greater than Y, where the aggregate demand line is above the 45-degree line. But it is important to see that the Keynesian dynamics, which we have already explained, in that case, such a situation is unstable. That means that the output would rise in response. So the output will not stay at Y1 because it would increase moving rightwards towards Y star. If income is Y2, then the aggregate demand generated is less than the output which generated it. So this situation is also considered to be unstable. The output would fall here, moving left towards Y star. It is only at Y star the aggregate demand generated would match the output that generated it. And this is considered to be a stable kind of a situation, and this level of output may or may not match with the full employment level of output. In this figure you can see that the equilibrium level of output is Y star, which is below the full employment level of output, which is YM. There is no mechanism here that it pushed towards it. The dynamics push all the output towards Y star. So the Keynesian cross is considered to be the simplest first approximation to Keynesian idea that the total output in the economy can settle at an equilibrium below full employment level. The computation of the Keynesian cross, or the computation here with respect to the equilibrium output level, is actually simple. Simple in the sense that it is simple. It is considered to be a simple result of the Keynesian multiplier effect. So here let's assume that the consumption is a linear function of the current income, that is C is equal to C0 plus Cy, where C is your marginal propensity to consume, and that is your MPC, which is a value between 0 and 1. And C0 is the autonomous consumption, which means that even if your level of income is 0, your consumption would be happening. The investment demand and the government spending are considered to be exogenous, that is I0 and G0. And in this case, the aggregate demand would be C0 plus Cy plus I0 plus G0. We have to understand that in the case of aggregate demand function YD, the slope of the curve would be the marginal propensity to consume, which is a value between 0 and 1. And the aggregate demand function YD is flatter than the 45-degree line. The vertical intercept is a collection of autonomous terms, that is A0, C0, I0, G0, etc. A0 is equal to C0, I0 plus G0. So, in the equilibrium, Y should be equal to YD. So, the Y star would be equal to C0 plus I0 plus G0 by 1 minus C. The equilibrium level of output Y star in the figure is given. And the basic reasoning here with respect to multiplier is that expenditure will generate income for somebody, and subsequently some of this income would be consumed, and this will generate more expenditure, which in turn generate more income, and this expenditure, a multiplier process. If autonomous expenditure is C0 plus I0 plus T0, then someone's income, this will be someone's income, and the consumption would increase by C into C0 plus I0 plus D0, which increase someone's income. Then it would again increase consumption, this again increase income. It will go as successive rounds. The rate of interest, if it is considered to be 0, nobody would hold bonds in their portfolio. because there is no profit in holding this in their portfolio. So in order to convince people to part from liquidity, bonds offer a rate of interest. The greater the rate of interest, greater will be the incentive to move away from money and hold more bonds instead of money. The issue with respect to expected and natural rate of interest, this is an issue which was presented over by Hicks. So here we can see that MD is a function of, that is the demand for money is a function of LR. Sorry, it's a function of RY, where LR is equal to a value which is less than 0, and Ny is actually a value greater than 0. This would happen as the interest rate rises, demand for money would fall, and people would prefer to buy interest bearing bonds. So the dependence of money demand on income is considered to be very crucial here, and this is what this is originally mentioned but suppressed by Keynes, and this aspect has been taken by Hicks and Hansen. Having discussed the money demand, let's see what money supply is. MS is equal to M by P, where M is the nominal money supply and P stands for the price level. For money market equilibrium, MD should be equal to MS. So, if you look into the case of the money market equilibrium, we have to see that let's understand that the existence of a portfolio stock constraint, that means that MD minus MS plus BD minus BS is equal to 0. So just by considering the valuation law for stock, a crucial assumption, then this equation will hold true all the times. We know that if the interest rate clears the bond market, then we can have MT is equal to MS, an equilibrium situation. In the view of Walras law, bond market equilibrium and money market equilibrium are the same thing. If the interest rates are high, then the bond market would exceed bond supply. I mean, bond demand would exceed bond supply via the stock constraint. And in this case, we can see that how this is depicted is given here in the figure, and here R1 is greater than R star. The portfolio dynamics is considered to be something of demand supply logic. If there is excess demand for bonds, then the price will rise, which means that the rate of interest will fall. And in here, interest rate would decline from R1 to R star. On the other hand, if when the interest rate is R star, then the bond supply would exceed bond demand by a regular logic, and this implies that there must be excess demand for money. So all these things are captured in the money market diagram. By recognizing the Walras relationship with implied by the portfolio allocation of wealth, we can claim that the interest rate on bonds is something which could be determined by the money market, even though the details of story are told in the bond market. Here, demand for money MT is equal to LRY. This is something which we have already discussed, which shows that the money demand is a function of output Y. And here, when output rises, money demand will also rise, and therefore the equilibrium level of interest rate R star will also rise. So by following the Hicks, we can say that LM curve is actually the locus which relates to output and levels to equilibrium levels of interest. The positive relationship in the L, which is short here, is that LM is sloping upward. At a given level of output, if R is too high, then the dynamics proposed earlier, that is, if R is greater than R star, there would be excess money supply and R declines, whereas in the case of other hand, I mean R is lesser than R star, then the excess demand increases and I mean the excess demand would be there and R increases. LM, as we have already discussed in many videos, it can have shifts depending upon several factors: an increase in the nominal money supply, decrease in the price, decrease in bond supply, and decrease in the money demand, or increase in the bond demand, all will lead to rightward shift in the LM curve. So the opposite of this leads to leftward shift of LM curve. So this is what the, if in this case you can see that the LM curve here, it is here we can see that dr by dy is equal to minus Ly by Lr. Here Ly is the income sensitivity and demand of money, and Lr is the interest sensitivity of money demand. And the Higgs called all these things by telling that if Ly is high and Lr is low, we get a steep LM curve, and if Li is low and Lr is high, we get a flat LM curve, which he called as the liquidity trap in the extreme case of the latter, I mean the second case. And if you superimpose the ISLM model to generate ISLM diagram here, we can notice that only one point in the diagram where the good market and money market are in equilibrium is a point of equilibrium. This is the equilibrium level of output, interest, in output and interest, where all the goods as well as money market would be clearing. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to this channel for more video. You can be a part of my Telegram group and Telegram channel to discuss your doubts. I'll be providing the links of the same in the description box.